Hello and welcome back to Leader for Newbies, the third rendition of this podcast series about Leader for people who want to learn more about Leader. And yes, today we are going to be talking about Andy van Geliebt's Ludwig van Beethoven's only song cycle, well, recognised song cycle, should we say. But yeah, what a cycle. I thought we'd stay in this little corner of the room since the weather was quite good today. There is a bit of cloud coverage coming. But I'm hoping it stays this nice, this sunny. The other thing about this cycle is the constant references to spring. It's springtime right now. Constant references to May, which is only May starts in a couple days, so it's perfect timing, really. I've planned it to perfection. Not really, it just so happens that I'm doing this at this time. But anyway, Andy van Geliebt, written by Ludwig van Beethoven, one of the most influential, if not probably the most influential composers of all time. We are talking about one of the pillars of classical music. Probably still one of the most performed, celebrated, appreciated composers now. So this guy, everyone knows who Beethoven is. Everyone's heard of him. He composed around 722 works in his life, which, funnily enough, if you compare that to Schubert that we were talking about, that is incredible. Schubert was 650 pieces of Lieder, and he was 31 when he died. Are you joking? That just shows how incredible that achievement that is for Schubert. But anyway, we shall not digress. We shall stay on track. And yeah, boy, was Beethoven on track. 722 works, 9 symphonies, some of the most impeccable symphonic works ever. That 9th symphony, I mean, the people, when that was first played, people would have been going berserk at that, because that was new for the time. That 9th symphony, having that sort of vocal part in there, that was new. And yeah, that's what Beethoven was known for. Changing the norm from people like Haydn and Mozart. And he had such a large sort of catalogue of music. Mentioned the symphonies, piano sonatas, instrumental concertos, just tons of arrangements for strings. And then that's not even talking about the vocal stuff. Load of vocal stuff, choral, Lieder, opera, you name it. He did it all. And yeah, this is all at the beginning of the Romantic period, 1800s. He's just the guy. There's not much else I can say, but he is really like a pillar in this sort of space, in the classical music space. And yes, brilliant music that he composed. What's even more brilliant is the fact that at the age of 28? At the age of 28, he began to lose some of his hearing. He started to go deaf at 28, and by he was in his early to mid 40s, he lost his hearing completely, which is incredible. This guy is writing music while he can't necessarily hear what he's composing. externally, that is. He would have been able to hear what he was writing internally. That's just the musician that he would have been. But yeah, incredible individual. And he also never married, which might seem a bit of an irrelevant point, but we will go back to that. He never married, which is interesting. You'll find out why that's interesting. But yes, he never married. I found an article on Google that basically stated he never married, but he always seemed to fall in love with women that he could never acquire, or something like that. And I think that's just weird. I don't know where they've got the information from. And yeah, we won't even get into that. But yeah, extremely talented musician. And yes, at the age of 45, he's probably very deaf by this point. He came into contact with an Austrian writer and doctor called Alois Gentile. Now, please forgive me if that pronunciation is wrong. I assume it is. Yeah, don't give me grief for that. But yes, he came across Alois, a writer and almost part-time doctor. He wrote a poetic sequence called An die Fern geliebt, which translates to my distant beloved. And that's where it all sort of kicks off for this sort of cycle. It's all about longing, as the title states, to my distant beloved. You know, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that feeling of longing, whether it's having a friend that is far away or having a family member that's far away, a pet, a loved one that's far away that they want to, they want to be with, they want to spend time with them. And it's this emotion that Beethoven and Alois chose. And this emotion was previously explored in a song of Beethoven's called Adelaide. He took the poem that was written by Friedrich von Mattheson, and he made a song when it was a lot younger, by the way. But he made a song, Adelaide. He wrote a song, Adelaide, about the same thing, longing for someone that you love. And little did he know that he would later compose a cycle on the same idea, on the same emotion, but just probably in a lot more detail, and after a lot more music that was written in between. So it was always going to be a bit better, a bit more in depth. But yes, a little bit about Alois. Because this is such a good song cycle, but I feel like the poet never gets enough credit, to be fair, in most senses, but especially in this sense. Alois, from readings and researching, he seems like a very normal bloke who clearly liked writing, but he also loved his family. He used to write these poems or these sequence of poems, and he would submit them in Viennese magazines, which actually got him a bit of fame, which is nice. Probably something he deserved. These poems seem to go down with the public quite well. And as I mentioned earlier, I said part-time doctor. He was sort of tirelessly working, trying to help his family during a sort of local cholera outbreak, which is incredible to think that he good on him for that. Basically, good on him. I'm sure he'd be great having a little chat and a pint with down at the pub. But anyway, we won't digress. He writes very good poems. That's the point. And I haven't been able to find this answer exactly, but we don't know whether it's due to the fame that he got through the Viennese magazines that Beethoven found him, or his writings, or whether Beethoven knew of him and specifically requested for this poem. But I do have a theory, a slight theory that Beethoven potentially did request this poetic sequence. In 1812, Beethoven wrote some letters to whom it addressed as Immortal Beloved. Obviously not in English, in German, but who is this Immortal Beloved? He never married, so this is clearly someone that he has a bit of a connection with. Does it, it just doesn't add up. He's writing poems, Immortal Beloved, addressed to an Immortal Beloved. A couple of years later, he writes a song cycle called To the Distant Beloved, To My Distant Beloved. I mean, come on. It seems blaringly obvious to me, but we will not assume. You cannot assume, so we won't assume. This Immortal Beloved could be anyone. Yeah, 1812 these letters were found. He never sent them to this Immortal Beloved. They were found in his home. But yes, after some research, I soon discovered that this Immortal Beloved could potentially have a name. He never married, but he did fall in love with, I'm going to say man or woman, we're not going to assume. But, a lot of historians believe that he is referring to a woman called Antonie Brentano, who was a German philanthropist, art collector, and a great friend of Beethoven. So they're friends. We don't know how Beethoven, we'll never know how Beethoven really felt. But what we do know is Anthony was wed in 1798 to Franz, her husband, and maybe this is why Beethoven never sent these letters off, because he knew it was the wrong thing to do. Although many are still waiting for other evidence to arise, proving that Anthony is innocent, that there wasn't an affair going on, she is still the most confident candidate for Beethoven's Immortal Beloved. If you go online, there is actually a lot more in-depth writing about this. There's so many theories, and I'm sure you'll find, because it is actually interesting. And again, I know I said this in the last episode. I probably will do another episode just on that, because I think that would be really interesting. And then seeing if I can find any information for you, because that's quite cool, I think. He wasn't only just a good friend of Anthony, but the whole Brentano family as a whole. So to have an affair with someone that you're that close to, I don't know. It wouldn't be the smartest of ideas, but you never know. This sort of stuff happens all the time, this day and age, and probably then as well. So we'll go over that. I think we'll go over that again. But for now, we'll park that there, because I don't think, I really don't think it's worth going over. It's just a point where it's just me just digressing because I'm a bit of a neek. But anyway, the cycle, Andy Ferngelipter. What sets this cycle apart from other composed by the likes of Schubert and whatnot? Well, it's this idea that this doesn't necessarily explore a story or a character developing through song. Simple as that. It is a cycle about an emotion. It's just a set of themes, really. And you could say it's not necessarily a cycle, but a ring of themes. I've got written here. It doesn't necessarily explore a specific narrative, but it presents a ring of themes that all come from the same emotion. Now, this idea of the ring comes from Beethoven himself. He preferred to call it a ring instead of a cycle. And this idea is supported by the fact that the theme explored in the first song is then repeated in the last song. There you go, a ring. It starts at one point and it ends at the exact same point. What goes around comes around. You know what I mean? And this is a good example of that. But yes, it's stated in the first song, Auf dem Hügel sitz ich spähend, and then is repeated or echoed in the last page of the final song, which is Nimm sie hin denn, diese Lieder. This theme is only briefly sort of explored in the first song. It sort of like teases you with this idea, but it sort of quickly dies off. It's, you know, the speaker starts to think about his lover a bit too much, and then he goes, "Oh, forget about it. She's miles away. I won't even think about it. She's miles away." That's the sort of idea. And then it's by the end, Nimm sie hin denn, diese Lieder. Here, take these songs that all these songs I've just sung to you, take them. And by the end of that, he's then repeating that same theme in the first one where he gets all excited about his beloved. It's a really sweet cycle. And it's really fun to enjoy, actually. Really fun to sing, really enjoyable to sing. One that I've never seen perform live, but performed live in a concert hall, but it's something I would love to see. But yes, this idea that we looked at in the last episode of word painting, and what Schubert was very good at was depicting an image. We're going to use, I've got some examples here basically of Beethoven doing the same thing but in a different way, and I have some examples of audio. I've got some snippets of me singing this cycle to help me explain to you what's going on. So the first example I've sort of picked out is from the penultimate song. Es kehret der Mayen, es blühet die Au. And it's a pretty simple sort of harmonic modulation that is used here, which helps really highlight the words. When the speaker is talking about the other people's love compared to his own towards the distant beloved, he uses a subtle modulation. This modulation is between D major and its relative minor, which is obviously B minor. On the phrase, wenn alles was Liebe der Frühling vereint, nur unsere Liebe kein Frühling erscheint. So he's talking about the spring and how spring unites spring unites other people's love, but spring doesn't unite me with my distant beloved that is always so far away. So I'll play that for you. I'll play a little snippet for you now, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it a bit more and move on to the next. Wenn alles, was Liebe der Frühling vereint, nur unserer Liebe kein Frühling erscheint. So as you heard, it modulates between major and minor, this idea of happy and sad. The major represents how everyone else is happy in spring because everyone's reunited, and spring is happiness anyway because of, you know, blossoming and all that rubbish, right? But then this idea of minor sadness comes because while it's good for others, spring doesn't reunite me and my love. Nur unsere Liebe kein Frühling erscheint. It doesn't reunite me with my beloved, but it does for others. Wenn alles, was Liebe der Frühling vereint. So it's a very simple harmonic modulation. There you go, Beethoven, tick. Great, fantastic stuff from him. But that's not all. There is more. I promise you there is more. We're now going to look at a tempo marking, a very slight, subtle tempo marking, which helps highlight the text, mirrors the words in the poem. In the first song, going backwards, I know it's done in a weird order, but going in the first song, the last verse, he uses the tempo marking nach und nach geschwinder, which basically means getting quicker, more and more, like gradually getting more and more quicker. And what I'll do, I've actually got the score here. I'll show you. How about that? Hang on. Oops, gone past it. Here we go. So yes, nach und nach geschwinder. And yeah, this is used not only to add a bit of tension in that last page, as you can see, but it's also used because the speaker has just talked about space and time. Raum und jederzeit. Space and time. Which again is another nice little subtle sort of use of tempo. When time and space is mentioned, we're going to get quicker and we're going to tease you because it very quickly dies down. I'll play the excerpt of it now, but it speeds up and then it sort of dies down. But yeah, I'll play it now. Es Klagen weichet, jeder Raum und jeder Zeit, und ein Leben Herz erreichet, was ein Leben Herz erweit. So yeah, as shown really. But yes, we've got one more example. And in this example, we're going to be talking about the transitions between each song because this is completely sung through. There's no breaks. There's no sort of, how do I describe it? In other song cycles, you might have a 10-second interval between each, but this is completely through composed. It's not through composed, but you're singing throughout the whole thing. You're singing for basically 15 minutes straight, which is one of the reasons why I find it so hard to sing because I'd quite like a bit of a break in between. But no, the transitions are so interesting in this, and the one I've picked out I think is probably one of the sweetest bits of composition I've ever heard. That might sound dramatic, but I promise you it is quite sweet. the transitions between each song really contribute to the ring idea also, yeah, because it's all sort of connected, right? And they add to the sense of intimacy and sweetness, blah, blah, blah. But the transition between song 3 and song 4 is the one that I'm going to highlight. The speaker finishes song 3 singing Meine Tränen ohne Zahl on the dominant note, which happens to be E flat. And whilst this note is continued on to the next page, you start to hear little trills, little sort of triplet, triplet quavers in the piano part. Really sweet sort of sounds. And you go, oh, that's sweet. I wonder what that's about. And then the singer comes in. Diese Vöglein muntert Zug. Oh, these birds in a happy trail. You can hear the birds, a little trip, but we'll you know what? Let's play it now, and then we can talk about it.
Flüstert ihr zu, mein liebes Lehen, lassen Sie Menschen dein kleiner Wunschlein, treu in deinen Wogen sehen meine Tränen ohne Zahl, ohne Zahl. Dieser Wolken in den Höhlen, dieser Vöglein munterer Zug,
so yes, the trills is so springy. It could be the wind, but I think it's the birds. It's the birds. It's a depiction of the birds. It's what Schubert was doing in Der König. It's the birds. It's got to be the birds. And these birds are sort of floating about that whole piece. The fourth song is actually the shortest as well. I don't know what relevance that has, but it's interesting to note at least. But yes, these trills that are in the right hand, the triplet feel of the quavers that are used, they really help depict the sense of lightness, which we associate with spring. Frühling, what a great word. And yeah, the birds and the clouds, which are both mentioned in the song. Actually, a lot of these words that we associate with spring are mentioned in that song and throughout as well. May is referenced twice in the fifth song. It might be more than twice, but Mayan, yeah, talk about a lot of stuff in May. Yeah, what's that? That song, that Schumann song, Dich zu Liebe in wunderschönen Monat Mai. That's a great piece. Dich zu Liebe. We'll look at Dich zu Liebe in another sort of episode, because that's another great song cycle, and we haven't really looked at Schumann yet, and I would love to. But yes, May is referenced a couple times, which is really sweet. It's so sweet. Isn't it just? The whole song cycle, I recommend you go and listen to it. Grab the translation and just listen. 15 minutes. If you've got 15 minutes, go and listen, read the text. It's so good. I feel like I haven't really done it justice, to be honest. But I don't want to keep going on. I'm aware this is probably almost half an hour anyway, and I don't want to keep boring you. So, you know, we are going to call it a day there. But we will return. We will return to this, or at least some sort of ideas within this, because it is so pretty. It's one of those pieces where you could sing it all day, and the pianist would love to play it all day. Some of the phrasing, some of the themes, some of the melodies in this cycle are so pretty and beautiful. It's incredible. So I suggest you go listen to it, and I'll stop rambling so you can go do that. And yes, I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you found this beneficial, and I hope it's opened your ears to some different leader. But yes, I hope you have a good day, whatever time of day it is when you're listening, and I will speak to you soon.